Hello and welcome to Exponentials 3.2, Stating Transformations. Okay, so today we're going to go over a lesson that should look very familiar. We've already done it for 3 quarters, and now we're going to do it one last time in the 4th quarter. So basically this first slide is going to show you something that you guys have seen many times already, and it basically outlines what the A, C, H, and K does as far as what control it has over the sentences that you write. Okay, so I'm not going to go over this slide, but I'm going to just point it out that it's kind of important to know. Right? And as you practice writing your sentences more and more, and I guess tying in which letters and which part of the letter rather is in charge of what kind of wording that you're going to use, then it's going to hopefully make things a little easier. Okay, so let's just get into our first problem though. And let's see, well actually, no, I'm sorry, not the first problem, but the domain and range of the 2 functions that we're going to go over today. And this is where it's a little bit different. We're going to actually study 2 functions and the transformations that are resulting from them. So it's not going to be as bad as it sounds. Normally we only do 1 function at a time, but because these 2 are very closely related, they're not too difficult to do both at once. Okay. The only big difference is when we get to the domain and range, it's going to have you guys think about different things, which can be confusing. So hopefully this slide is going to clear things up. And if you guys get confused, always refer back to this slide as much as possible, as much as needed. Okay. So domain for exponential functions are going to be your favorite, all real numbers. We haven't seen that ever since the 1st quarter with quadratics, so you're going to love this. Okay. And for range, it's based on your a value. Yeah. So if your a value is positive, then your range will be g of x greater than your k value. If your a is negative, then it's going to be g of x is less than your k value. Yeah. So greater than 0 or positive will imply greater than. Yeah. So less than 0 or negative is going to be g of x less than k. Yeah. For domain and range in a logarithmic function, range will be your favorite all real numbers. Domain, on the other hand, is going to be basically what you call grabbing your argument, or what is known as what's inside the parentheses, and setting it greater than 0. Okay, the reason why you have to set it greater than 0 is because in a logarithm, inside the parentheses of a log can never be 0 or it can never be negative numbers. That's a very big no-no. Yeah? And if they ever are 0 or negative numbers, that's going to basically crash the problem. Yeah? So it's not allowed. Yeah? So you want to set it greater than 0, then you're going to solve for x, and whatever you get when you solve for x, that's going to be your domain. Okay? So I'll show you guys how that works in action as I get to the live problem. So let's move on to the live problems finally. Okay, so the first thing that you guys got to remember that a lot of you guys are still making mistakes on is you got to rewrite your equation, because if you don't, that's going to lead you to getting the wrong h value. And if you get the wrong h value, it's going to take down a whole bunch of stuff along with it. Okay, so in this first problem, I have x plus 6, which I rewrite as x minus minus 6 because I've always told you guys, look for the h after your minus sign. So here's my minus sign, right? X minus, that's your minus sign. And what's after that minus sign? Negative 6. So negative 6 is your h value. Yeah, your c value is going to be positive 1 because there's nothing in front of your x. So like I said in algebra 2, we're nice to you guys. We're just going to make the c value either positive 1 or negative 1. We're not going to mess around with positive 3 or negative 7. We're just going to keep the c value as either positive 1 or negative 1. Next year's class, they can do whatever they want. Yeah. Your a and your k, those are the easiest. A is all the way in the front, negative 3/4. K is all the way in the back, positive 9. Yeah. And once you lock in on your 4 values, you can start writing your sentences. So since a is negative, it's just going to be reflection across the x-axis. If a was positive, you'd write no reflection across the x-axis. But because it's negative, we just write reflection. Okay. Your a value is 3/4, and 3/4 is less than 1, but bigger than 0. So that's why you're going to say vertically shrink by a factor of 3/4. Okay, if your a value was 4/3, 4/3 is bigger than 1, so you would say vertically stretch. But because 3/4 is between 0 and 1, you're going to write vertically shrink. Okay? All right, so your c value is positive, so therefore it's no reflection across the y-axis. Don't forget to put y-axis, not x-axis again. Okay? Your h value is negative 6, so that's horizontal shift, left 6 units. K value is positive 9, so that's going to be vertical shift up 9 units. Okay? All right, so getting on to domain and range. So range, your favorite, yeah, all real numbers. Domain, though, because this is a logarithmic function, you got to grab the argument, or what's inside the parentheses, or x plus 6, set it greater than 0, and then solve for x. So minus 6 both sides, and you're going to get x is greater than negative 6, and that's going to be your domain. Okay? All right, so that's the first problem. Let's go to our next one. So this is going to be an exponential function. So that's not really going to mean much as far as identifying a, c, h, and k. Knowing that it's an exponential is only going to affect domain and range at the end. Okay, but because rewriting equations is still a thorn in a lot of your sides, yeah, I'm going to go over how to rewrite the equation. So first thing, right, a value positive 3 over 2, that's easy, that's all the way in the front. Last thing, k value positive 5, that's all the way at the end, positive 5. Not too many people mess up on that anymore. Okay, the c and the h, that's where people mess up. So your c value is going to be located in front of your x, which you see a negative. So because there's a negative in front of the x, your c value is negative 1. Okay, so to get your h value, though, you're going to you're going to separate the negative from the x. And that's where I get negative x plus 2, yeah, in parentheses. So because I took away a negative from both the x and the 2, it becomes x plus 2, yeah, and the negative's on the side, in the front. Then, because I've always told you guys, right, h is always located after the minus sign. I don't see a minus sign, I see an x plus 2. So I'm going to rewrite the x plus 2 as x minus minus 2. So here's my negative. And what's after my negative? Negative 2. So there's my h value. Okay? All right, and then once I get my a, c, h, and k, I can write my sentences. All right, so your sentences, main one you want to focus in on this time is a value is 3 over 2. And 3 over 2 is bigger than 1. So that's why I changed it to vertically stretch. My a value was positive, so that's why I write no reflection. If a value was negative, I would just write reflection. So keep that in mind. Yeah. So next part, domain and range. Domain, because this is an exponential function, it's all real numbers. Your favorite. You love that, right? Range, on the other hand, all depends on the sign of a. So if a is positive, range is greater than. If a is negative, range is going to have the less than symbol. So because my a value is positive, that's why you're going to see range, g of x, greater than positive 5, your k value. Yeah? Okay, so make sure you identify what kind of function it is so that you can do the right type of domain and range. You never had to worry about that in the past, right? Because we're doing two functions in the same lesson, you got to make sure you know which function we're dealing with and what rules apply to that particular function that we're dealing with in this problem. Okay, so let's look at problem number 3. Okay, where's the button? I'll push the button. Okay, all right, so problem 3, exponential function again, just like problem 2, right? This time we actually don't have to write the equation again because it's in the form we want. So negative 2/5 is our a, positive 1 is our c. After your negative sign, you see just regular plain old 4, so h is positive 4. And all the way at the end, you see negative 7. Okay? So, our sentences can be written based on these 4 values. Okay? And because this is an exponential function, domain is all real numbers. Range is going to be based off of your a value, and a value this time is negative, so therefore we're going to put less than. So range is less than, right? So g of x less than your k value of negative 7, and there's your range. All right? So please make sure on your domain and range, you actually ask yourself, what kind of function is this? And based on that, you can do the right steps for domain and range. Okay? So in our last problem, this is a logarithmic function. So therefore, domain and range are going to be a little bit different from the previous 2 problems. Yeah? So I'll talk about that at the end. All right, so this one we actually have to rewrite the equation because we see that there's a c value of negative 1. So we've got to separate that negative from the x. So we're going to take away the negative from the x, and we're going to take away a negative from the 4. You're going to say, the 4 doesn't have a negative because there's a plus sign in front of it. But I'm going to say, actually, it does have a negative. He actually has 2 negatives because when I rewrite this guy, I can rewrite it like that. Okay, so when I rewrite it, or when I take away the x rather, the negative rather, I get negative and then x minus 4. Okay, so sorry about that, I had to cough. All right, so we can write our sentences based on our A, C, H, and K. And when we do our domain and range, range, your favorite, all row numbers. Domain will be based off of solving for your argument, right? Solving for the stuff that's inside the parentheses. So inside the parentheses, we got negative x plus 4. So we're going to set that greater than 0. So subtract 4 both sides. Then we get negative x greater than negative 4. Okay? So I got to get that negative away from the x though. So I got to divide by negative 1. So when I divide by negative 1 on both sides, dividing by negative 1, or by negative actually, does something to your inequality symbol. It makes it change direction. Yeah, so it was a greater than symbol earlier, but because I got to divide both sides by a negative, it turns into less than. So x is less than 4. So there's your domain. X colon x less than 4. All right? So be aware of this, right? Your inequality symbol changing direction. And also be aware that because it's a logarithmic function, we do a little bit different things for domain and range compared to the previous two problems. Yeah? And that's going to be the part that's going to mess everybody up. So be careful. All right? Okay, so good luck on this problem. And if you have questions in class, just let me know. Okay, but yeah, good luck. Bye-bye.